Do you want to bust your sales quota? Do you want to join the ranks of top 1% sellers? The Top 1% Sellers podcast gives you the insights and the tools to help you achieve your sales greatness. The podcast features sales and services professionals, leaders, and experts to give you the edge you're looking for. Here's your host, Seddeek.
Welcome, everyone. This is the Top 1% Sellers podcast. I have an amazing guest today, and just when you read the story that he has in his book about his own personal life, you would be amazed how much people go through and how much they rise back and understand what it takes to succeed in life and what it takes to really take adversity and create success out of it. My guest today is Jon Dwoskin. He is the author of the Think Big Movement book, and when you hear the rest of the story and you hear about Jon and his business, you'll be amazed about the value that he brings to his clients. And Jon, just for starters, I'd love for people maybe to get a snapshot of your career path to date, and then we'll jump into some questions about the book and also your business as well.
Sure. Well, thanks so much for having me on the show. I appreciate it.
Absolutely.
So I'll try to make it as quick as possible as to not bore anyone, but I graduated college. I went to Eastern Michigan University. I double majored in economics and journalism. I then, out of college, started an internet company with my brother and a buddy of ours in my parents' basement. This was in June of 1995, kind of right as the internet was really
just in the start. Yeah,
really in the start.
Yeah.
And so I led it was myself and my two business partners, and then I was responsible for sales and then leading the sales team. And it was a blast. I mean, long story short, about 2 years after we started the company, close to 24 employees, we sold the company to a company called US Web at the time, which was at the time the largest internet professional service firm in the world. And we were just, partners then in this Silicon Valley company. And it was incredible and bizarre at the same time because we went from a mom and pop basement company. We had moved into an office. And then we were part of this huge collection of acquisitions from around the country to what many people, the internet was still relatively very new. So we did that. It was an amazing ride, had a great time, learned more than I could ever read in any amount of books. And then when I could leave, I left. I took a little bit of time off so I could just kind of get grounded and take care of myself. A lot had happened in my life as far as just my mom died, and there was just a lot going on, and I was working 100 hours a week since I graduated college. So I went from there. I had a quick job for 1 year doing internet sales at Quest Communications, and then I jumped into real estate, which I always wanted to do. My grandfather was in real estate, and I always wanted to get into real estate. So I became a broker, and I started selling multifamily apartment buildings in the state of Michigan, and knew nothing about real estate, and then ultimately grew to the top conventional multifamily guy in my office. And I was just getting restless. I'm an entrepreneur by spirit, and I was getting a little bored. Anyway, long story short, I ended up getting offered the opportunity to take over my office in Detroit at Marcus & Millichap. And so I did that. I got hired in June of 2008. My start date was August 4th, 2008, and the market crashed in September of 2008. And so my office was annihilated. It was just a bloodbath, and I was in charge of running the office. Long story short, learned more there than I could possibly even comprehend. I did. I loved it. I loved the people that I worked with, and I love the other managers that I worked with. But after 6 years, I was just getting restless again. My entrepreneurial spirit was just a little bit hungry for change. Creatively, I always wanted to start my own business, doing what I'm doing now. As I was getting ready to resign, I got offered an opportunity to go in-house, which I did for a year, to help be part of a leadership team to restructure a 50-year-old company. And then after I did that, I started my own business, which is, I basically am an executive advisor business coach, and I work with companies to grow them. Long story short.
That's amazing. That's fascinating to me because you listed high tech, you listed telecom, you listed commercial real estate. Amazing experience that you bring to the table, because I'm sure across all of those industries, you've seen successes and failures. and now in your executive coaching business, I think it's an amazing combination to have come across all of that, because now you're almost bringing in the insights of a management consultant, because you've seen several examples of those experiences. So definitely very excited to have you. And let's start by kind of sharing with people, what inspired then to sort of write this book and share with people, what I basically see here as you really became very open to share as much as you want about your own personal story, which is also very inspiring as well. So I'd love for you to kind of give people a sense of what they have in the book.
Sure. Well, I've always wanted to write books, and I've always wanted to be a speaker and an author, and so it goes hand in hand with my business coaching. But the book, I feel like I have about at least 7 books in me. So that was my first one. I've actually started my second one, which is exciting, but we'll focus on the first one for today. And I wanted to write a book, all my favorite business books. I'm a very slow reader. I'm a huge reader. I always have been. I'm a constant learner. But all my favorite books were books told as fables. And so I wanted to write a business book, not an academic type-ish book, that somebody could actually throw themselves in the story. So it would be very real. Because I think with storytelling, the reason people love movies and the reason people love storytelling is because if it's told in the present moment, they can put themselves in the story.
Exactly.
So I wanted to write a book like that so people could connect with it and write it as a fable / almost like a novel kind of. So even if you're not a business person, you'll still connect to the characters, because no one in the book is perfect. Everybody's got a little bit of a backstory. Everybody's got some pain. But yet they all come together. And I'll tell you a little bit about the book. I mean, I know you've perused it. It's a story about a guy who was very successful and has started his own business, and he's just stuck. And through a string of coincidences, when he feels like he's just given up, he meets a collection of different people, through friends, through coincidence, through happenstance, and he ultimately ends up with a business coach. And all of the people collectively really get him moving in the direction that he needs to move, and get him out of his stuck mode and into growth. So it's what I do with my clients.
Exactly. I was just going to say that.
And in many ways, the story is, in many ways, elements of it autobiographical, because it's also about me, and elements of not only myself, but people in my family, close friends, of things that they have been through. Some of the names have been changed, but the information was pulled from reality of what I see every day, also working with clients and have seen through the last 30 years.
Exactly. And what's interesting about it also is that you picked, out of all that, to basically say that in the title, you're basically saying it's the Think Big movement, which to me says that part of your own evolution was realizing that was the main thing to really, hold on to, because everything is packed up behind it. I'd love to kind of let people in to see what happened in your own journey that led you to really realize that thinking big was the main advantage for a lot of success.
Right. Well, I do believe in thinking big. I'll tell you, I got into the coaching business when I was 43 years old, and I just turned 43. But I've wanted to do it since I was 18 years old. My dad gave me a set of tape sets by Brian Tracy when I was 18. He said to me, "You're going to learn more from these people than you will school." I graduated college, but since the day he gave it to me, I knew this is what I wanted to do, and I became addicted to learning ever since. But so between Brian Tracy and Anthony Robbins and all my my favorite guys, Jim Rohn, et cetera, that I've listened to. Sorry about that. That I've listened to. It's all about setting big goals and doing big things, which I love, and I do that. But what thinking big is really about reverse engineering how to get to the big, which is everything compounds. And so it's about doing the small things every single day that get to the big. And whether that's in business or personal life, you can't necessarily rush. And there's sometimes you just got to surrender and
Yeah.
and let the universe take its time or do its work. And so that's
Yeah.
also kind of the deeper meaning behind it as well.
I,
But
I love that. I love
yeah,
that. Yeah.
um,
So I definitely understood what you meant, the fact that it could be a big dream and definitely think big, but you want to come back and unpack it to the detailed task level, the different steps that you want to do, and then realize that in addition to your own energy and force and pushing it forward, there is a lot of other, energy coming from those around you. And also, as you said, perhaps there is certain timing that you may not be privy to at that moment, and be
correct.
open to that.
Correct. So you asked about my personal journey. So it's the
Yeah.
same, I kind of approach both in a lot of the same way. I'm 45
Yeah.
years old. I'm a 16-year cancer survivor. I had testicular cancer when I was 30 years old.
Yeah.
I was one of the lucky ones. I had some radiation, 17 treatments of radiation, but fortunately it didn't really affect my life. I was able to live and have children, and thank God.
Yes.
But still, you still infuse all the stresses that come with it, and you just kind of have to. You're forced in the you are forced
Yeah.
in the present because you don't want to think about your next CAT scan that's 6 months away, or the past of what happened. So it's kind of like you really have no choice, and not that it's
Yeah.
an easy overnight thing, but I really kind of through my life, and then I know we talked about this before the podcast started. When I was 40,
Yeah.
I went in for a 10-year checkup, and my doctor, basically, I was driving to Chicago for a business meeting. I live in Michigan. And my
Yeah.
doctor called me and said, "You got to turn around. You have cancer riddled through your entire body." And
Yeah.
I went with my wife to the office, and he said to me, I'm cutting to the, long story short, I have no good news.
Yeah.
You have cancer riddled through your whole body. Basically, you're going to die.
Yeah.
And we've never
Yeah.
seen a case like this. So I just intuitively did not think anything was wrong with me, even though he was telling
Yeah.
me. And I asked him to retake my blood, and he said the odds of me being wrong is 1 in a million. So I said I want
Okay.
an emergency ultrasound, CAT scan, and I want my blood taken. And
Yes.
but for a day and a half, my wife and I basically thought I was toast, like just a goner.
It's unbelievable. Yeah. Yeah.
And so they did all of that, and we were at Starbucks about a day and a half later. My doctor called and said, "Hey, I apologize, but you're right. They botched your blood." And
Unbelievable. Yeah.
but I'll tell you, I had a big fear of death prior to that, and after
Yeah.
that, it went
Yeah.
away around 95%. And I'll tell you, it was kind of a gift because
Yeah.
because I'm okay. But if
Yeah.
I don't know if I can swear on this, but it really effed me up because I
Yes. No,
didn't.
definitely go for it.
Right.
Yeah.
It really fucked up my psyche because
Yes.
I thought I was going to be in chemo, and then I'm at work,
Yeah.
3 days later. So it really, again, forced me, and it's kind of like a constant journey for me always to
Yeah.
be present and to know that you can only do what you can do. You can set the highest goals. You can surround yourself with the best team, but there's only so much you can do. And then at some point you have to surrender and let things take its course and allow the compound effect to really take its course. Darren Hardy, one of my favorite
Yeah.
books, The Compound Effect. Darren Hardy, one of my
Yeah.
all-time hands down favorite books. Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. I'll definitely check it out myself. I think this is a fantastic segue because in your business, I know that I am sure you come across, as you're working with executives across a number of companies, sales teams, sales organizations, and you're helping them make a shift, get better at what they do. I'd love to understand this from your own experience. What have you seen sort of like the highlights of the challenges that are common, but yet the only person that knows they are common is someone like you because you interact with several executives across a number of industries. What are some of the top challenges? And I think the fact that now you have this insight, I am sure now you don't look at them just as CEOs or executives running companies. You see the whole 360 human being that is
Right.
thrown into whatever role that they're in.
Yeah. Well, I think for starters, I can tell you the first thing that I see within companies is that they don't have the right people in the right seats. and they're scared to let people go. And they've rushed to hire people, whether they've grown too quickly or, they find the recruiting process tiring. They hire too fast, they fire too slow, and the reverse needs to be true. And they keep people that bring the organization down and keep it from growing and infuse a toxicness into the company. So if you're looking at kind of a range of between fear and courage, they're scared. They're scared to do it because there's 1,000 reasons. It's not the right time. It'll never be the right time. Nobody can pick up the workload. Well, if they quit tomorrow, somebody would have to. So there's a really honest view at the workforce, because if you want to be great, right? If you want to be exceptional, you got to have great and exceptional people. And if you don't, the company can't really grow. And I always view letting people go, and I actually talk about this in my book, it's an act of compassion. You're doing them a huge favor. You're doing the company a huge favor.
Absolutely.
Right. It's not fair to the quality people, to the right people, to have the wrong people there. And so most people are too scared to quit, to go find what their dream is, to go find what makes them happy. They're going home.
Yes, exactly.
Right.
Get a restart. Yeah.
Correct. Right. So if you give them, it may not feel good. I always tell my clients, if you're going to let somebody go, it's an act of compassion. It doesn't mean it has to be nasty. If you want to give them a severance so you sleep well at night and you want to give them a month or two, do it. But don't allow them to prevent the company from growing. So that's first and foremost. It is. Yeah. It's really a dangerous piece. Next, a lot of times companies don't have a plan. Yeah, I know it sounds so simplistic, but they don't have a 1-year plan. They don't have a 3-year plan. I believe in 3-year plans. I think anything further than that, it's hard. Especially today, it's such a disruptive market and world. You need a very clear 3-year plan that you reverse engineer to a 1-year plan that you reverse engineer to quarterly plans, and they are crystal clear with clarity and specific measurable goals. So that is something that I don't see, and it's lacking. And within that is
interesting
goal that for all of the leadership team too. It's amazing. So a lot of times CEOs of companies don't have a business plan, and so although the leadership doesn't have a business plan or individual business plans, and none of the salespeople underneath them or managers have business plans. So everybody's just kind of like floating around,
just flowing.
Right, just flowing with no structure.
Yeah.
And, it's interesting because I talk about this sometimes. A lot of people will say, oh, millennials, blah, blah, blah. Millennials specifically need a lot of structure. Yeah. They want to make an impact. They want to have an experience, but they want constant learning and structure. So those are the pieces. And then the final piece is a very high bar of accountability. Because if you don't have accountability and you don't have somebody calling you out that, hey, you got to do this, then you run into problems, and you then don't have a culture of feedback. So when there's accountability, there's productive, immediate impact of feedback. And that's what turn in. So I would say all of that. And then on top of that, what I see also a lot of times is the leaders sometimes don't understand the power of influence they have as a leader. And what I mean by that is they don't understand how their actions can create a negative wave of things or positive.
Absolutely. It kind of cascades into the organization.
Correct. So they need to really understand that. And if their ego is too big and they're running more off of their ego, then they're going to have just an increase of, people that aren't loyal to them, because, in today's world, a leader needs to be much more grounded than ever before, and they need to kind of leave their ego at the door. They can be strong, but a narcissistic ego as a leader is a very tough organization to work in.
Very interesting. I know you work with a lot of sales organizations and sales leaders as well. You've sold yourself, you took businesses and you grew it. When you think about those challenges, when you think about the sales organizations that you work with, specifically when they're trying to grow revenue, what have you seen in terms of the blocks that they are that are typically in operation vis-a-vis the goals that the revenue goals that they want to achieve.
Are you talking about from an operation standpoint or from a sales standpoint?
From a sales standpoint, so what kind of stands in the way that they don't even know what's happening?
From sales, are you talking about salespeople right now?
Yes,
Okay.
exactly.
So thanks for the clarity. Salespeople, sure. They need a plan more than anything, because they're really let loose a lot of times within organizations to build their business. And what I find is there's growing the business and managing / retaining the business. So it depends what field you're in, and there's a lot of different fields. But, salespeople will come up with every excuse in the book why they can't generate new business, right? My pipeline's too flush. These deals are holding me back. So the number one thing that I see is that salespeople don't do business development every day, and they need to. And one of the things I talk to them about is create a micro day. If you have a busy day, make 2 phone calls a day, make 1 cold call a day, do something. So most salespeople will not commit to metrics. And they won't commit to metrics. Sales is a numbers. I mean, you have to have talent.
It's amazing,
Moxie, and you have to have
exactly. That's the one thing you remember,
But the one thing is you got to be able to measure it, and it's the metrics that sales. I'll meet salespeople all the time, and I'll say, "What are your metrics?" And they'll say, "What do you mean?" And I'll say, "Well, what are your conversions?" Well, what do you mean?
Right.
And then I say to them, "What do you mean?"
What do you mean?
Right.
Exactly.
So because you can't really set goals, it's when a new salesperson comes in, they're hungry, they're ambitious. If they're the right salesperson, they're driven. They go out. They, a salesperson will make cold calls. And I mean, when I had my internet company, I was doing sales. I didn't even know what the internet was, but I was going on I was going on 20 appointments a week, and I was figuring it out. So
exactly, you got the baseline. You have to, see how you're doing versus that baseline. Without a baseline, how can you measure?
Correct. So I would say salespeople, they don't measure like they should. They don't keep an active pipeline. I can't tell you how many salespeople I meet with, and I say, let me see your pipeline. I said, I don't have one.
Yeah.
Well, how do you manage kind of the relationships? And also that it's, sales is relationship based. And it's interesting. I go into all these different sales organizations, and sometimes different organizations will say, well, we're not a transactional thing. We do sales this way, and we're more relational. Well, it's all relational.
Yeah.
Sales is sales. And it's good to focus on industry specific people that can help you. But the fundamentals of sales is practicing your craft every day, which I don't see a lot of salespeople do. Just that constant learning of how to get my skill set and a nugget and the next piece of information that I can use, the next line, the next pivot statement, the next transitional statement. They need that.
Exactly.
And typically that's because there's not training within an organization, appropriate, effective, consistent training in an organization. So that starts up top.
Yes. Yeah, no, that's wonderful. And I'd love to then, give people listening in a sense of what it's like to engage with Jon. And let's maybe focus first on a CEO, someone who is running his own business, regardless of size, and they want to work with Jon. What situation, you mentioned the 5 challenges, and they could be in any one of those challenge areas or other situations, but how can they, what does the engagement itself would look like? So that, because a lot of people hear the word coaching, but they have never gone through the experience. So I'd love for you to kind of share with them, right?
Right.
What it's like to engage with a coach, and then what the next steps will be.
Right. Typically, most people, unless they're referred, are not waking up and saying, they're not waking up and saying, I think I need a coach today. But most of those people have all been in some type of athletics, and they watch sports, and they know that no matter how good all of these teams are, they all have a coach, multiple.
Exactly. Yeah.
So, but from a business perspective, I'll tell you who my client is. My client is somebody who is successful, but stuck, and wants to grow and wants to be better.
Yeah.
So that's a very important piece, because if
that's good profile, yeah.
right, because sometimes I'll work with a CEO or a president of a company, and they'll say,
Yeah.
I want you to work with everybody in the company but me. Don't try to change me. Well,
Yeah.
I can't do anything. I can
Exactly.
band-aid a couple of things, but if the person up here doesn't want to change, then I'm up against the wall. And so my clientele are really, again, successful, stuck, want to grow, want to be better.
Want to grow.
Right. They want to just be, and they want to be better people too. They want to be better leaders. They want to be better influencers. They want to be, they just want to, that's what they want to do. So that's my clientele. Now, I also do keynotes for companies around the country, and I do workshops, not only around the country where I travel, but also via Zoom, like we're speaking, and Skype. Thanks
I
to
think it would be great if you
technology.
give them absolutely. Yeah. If you're going to give them a sense of what it's like then to engage on the coaching level and then also the workshops, I think that'd be great.
Sure. So on the coaching level, it typically works like this. Typically the first, it depends. My clients usually fall into two tranches. The first 5 hours or the first 10 hours are a very intense, basically breaking down the whole understanding of the structure of the entire company, all the elements of it, and just kind of rebuilding the fundamentals and understanding and everybody starts at a little bit of a different pace. Nothing I do is cookie cutter, although I do have my own system and methodology and this, that, and the other, but I customize it to everybody. And the first 5 hours or 10 hours, whichever bucket you fit in, we're diving deep into right people, right seats, the management structure, the strategy, the vision, where you're going, reverse engineering, how you're going to get there, metrics. I mean, the guts of the organization. And a lot of times we're also working on their leadership, their influence, and basically setting a roadmap. And then from that, it goes to basically whatever it makes sense on a monthly basis. So
get started.
Correct. So some of my clients I'm working with 5 hours a month, 10 hours a month, 3 hours one month, 2 hours the next month. I customize whatever they need, because one thing I don't want to do is get in their way. I'm there to be the guy behind the leader to help them grow. And so we get so much done in a meeting. They don't need me, every day. But I tell them all, anytime they have a 2 to 10 minute distraction, they call me, they email me, they text me. We walk it through. We role play. I'll have CEOs or VPs, call me at 8 o'clock on a Sunday or email me. I got to talk to this person. Can you strategize with me for 5 minutes? We hop on the phone. That's part of the program. And then
that's awesome.
So we set course. I to date, and my attorneys tell me this is not a good idea, but I do not do, well, for my keynotes I do, but for my coaching, I don't sign a contract with anyone. That may change. I don't think so. But because to me, a contract is bullshit. Like if I'm not bringing value to you, then don't work with me anymore. But and I've been doing it long enough now. I can meet with someone and say, you know what, we'll meet for 5 hours. We'll do 2 hours for 3 months, and then you need an hour a month. There's some clients I go in house, and I go in and I integrate as a COO, and I'm there, X amount of hours a week, and so it just depends on
helping them run the function.
Well, being the extra set of hands, like they're the eyes and the vision, but they need an extra set of hands. So it really depends, and I customize everything depending on what somebody needs. But I will say this also, let me just say this too. A lot of times I work with the owners and the leadership team, and then I also work with middle managers and teach them how to be better managers. I have a whole program on how I teach managers, and then I'll work with the top salespeople as well.
That's fantastic. And I'm listening in and I'm wondering if I am a CEO listening to this, one of the first reactions I'm going to get is an overwhelm, because you do things, because of your experience, you're able to run across, as you're saying, you're asking questions across the business. And so there is this balance between overwhelm and accountability. And I wonder, how do you deal with it, right? Because I'm sure some of your clients might say, hey, Jon, I don't know. It's too much. I don't know. Especially also when you said the fact that some of them don't even have any plans, right?
Correct. Well, it can be a lot for people because what I've learned is to give it to them in pieces, right? So,
Yeah.
sometimes like I'll do an 8-hour offsite with a leadership team,
Yeah.
and I'll know like within the first 10 minutes I think what we should be doing. But I know it's going to take them 8 hours for me to guide them so they come
To
up
catch
with it,
up.
and for them to own it. They got to own it. So, and what I've
Right.
learned is you gotta give, just give what people can have the capacity to take, retain, implement, and then come back for more. So
Yeah.
that's why, I have clients
Yeah.
I've been working with for years and years and years because I give them a little, they move in that direction, or sometimes they don't, and then they have to move back into that direction, and then
Yeah.
we keep on meeting consistently. In order for it to work, you got to commit to the process and keep it going. So listen, all my clients don't stick with me forever, but when they come
Yeah.
and 6 months later, they say, hey, I'm good. A lot of times 6 months later, they're coming back because without the accountability of someone pushing them with new ideas, new thoughts,
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
yeah,
Exactly. We're human beings. I think at the end of the day, as you said, I think one of the best things that hopefully people will take away, and you talk about this in your book as well, and also as part of the Jon Dwoskin experience, are you working in your business or are you working on your business? And I think when they're working with a coach, they are really stepping out
correct.
and looking and working on the business and getting some clarity on what do we need to do to make a shift. Otherwise, it's going to be the same results, the same work. Does that make sense?
It doesn't make sense. I mean, I'll give you a metaphor. I about a couple years ago, I started going to a nutritionist in New York, and I had gained weight. This was like 3-4 years ago. I was up to like 205, 210, which is a lot for me.
Yeah.
I'm 5'10". So I called this guy and I lost 30 pounds. Felt amazing. I had to email him my weight every day, and I had to call him every day. And he sent me a menu every 4 or 5 days of exactly what to eat. Did it, lost the weight, and never felt better. But then I got to a point where I was like, you know what? I got this. Like, I get it.
Yeah.
Gained all the weight back once I stopped the program. So I started on the program again yesterday. So I weighed myself yesterday for the first time in a long, long time.
In a long time, yeah.
A long time. Started the program yesterday, and I'm back on with them. Emailed him my weight this morning, yesterday, called him today. I need, like you said, we're all human. You need the accountability.
Yeah. It's amazing, right? Yeah.
I mean, I know exactly what to do. I know exactly what to eat. I have 100 menus that he sent me over the course of, but I need that person. So, without accountability, and people don't like accountability.
Yeah, it's that regular check-in. You're absolutely right. I did an exercise program where I was sending my kids a picture of me exercising every day. And just the feeling of I need to check in. It's almost like you're clocking in, right? I need to check in. It really encourages you in some respect to kind of get up and do it. And if you don't do it, all right, here's how I'm going to ask for forgiveness and get back on track, Right. I'd love for people to also get a sense when they hire Jon to do a keynote, what are some of the topics that you talk about? And I'm sure there's some passion behind them because that's why you chose them. I'd love for people to maybe get a sense of what those topics are.
Sure. I talk a couple of things. One, I talk about just how to think big and the whole process of that. I do a keynote, which I really love, which is teaching people how to grow their business and manage people. It kind of comes together.
Yeah.
And so when I'm working with a bunch of people, is that within companies that run different divisions or companies that have a lot of franchises that's throughout the country where there's a lot of individual owners, but talking to them about how to run a business and how to manage people and how to do sales training and the essence of what sales training is. And what I really like to do is then do that. And then a day of breakout workshops with all of their people where we can really get
with them
gritty. Right. Sales, growing your business, time management, and time blocking and metrics and effective feedback. All of those kind of fall under, I usually all put them under growing your something of the business.
Yeah.
Whether it's growing your
Yeah.
sales, growing your management team, growing your management skills, growing your business. Everything kind of falls under those elements, because that's what I can speak to. And I have,
Yeah.
1,000+ tools that I've created over the last, forever, that I can give them not only as a talk, but I can give them tools to put into their business to help them change their business that day. Now, whether
Innocently, because you've used them yourself over time, you've developed them as you were working in, and they made a difference in the businesses that you're working in.
Correct. Yes.
That's incredible. That's incredible, Jon.
And I love to share it, because it's, it doesn't do me any good just having it in my head or having it be created. So, as many people as I can share it with that can put it into their best practices, the better.
Fantastic. I'm going to ask sort of a left field question, because part of your story is at the very beginning of the conversation. You basically said, at some moment you're going to have to let go and let the universe step in. And I think for a lot of people you work with, executives, sales teams, sometimes they want to also feed their soul, realize that they are part of a bigger universe. They've got their families, their communities. What does Jon do now to feed his soul, right? And what do you advise also your clients to do in order to make sure that they're not disconnecting from the bigger picture?
Well, I think the more any leader is connected to not only their own soul, but the soul of what their business is, the more effective leader they are, and the more successful the company will be, and the more profitable the company will be, because the culture will be healthier, and people will want to be connected to that type of company. But I think one of the things that happens is that owners of companies, I'll talk about owners, or CEOs, whatever, they don't know what the DNA of the soul of their company is. They don't know what their message is. They think they know, or they knew at one point, or then it grew too quickly and things kind of got out of control, and they hit that kind of 18 to 24, 25 employees, and then everything shifted where they couldn't touch everything because the company got too big, and then it began to kind of lose its, people say, well, it's just not the same culture. Well, because it's a lot harder to do if you're not attentive to that. But I think one of the things that most executives do not do to reconnect to that is, number one, and it sounds very simple, take executive time every day. And whether that's having a morning ritual or an afternoon ritual, whether it's, I can tell you, I wake up, and I've been doing this forever. I wake up, I meditate, I read something, it doesn't matter really what it is. I'll journal and write a little bit, because I have a lot of thoughts in my head. I'll work out, and just take time at some point during the day, even if it's for a minute, if my day is crazy, and just try to breathe and do some deep breathing and just clear my head. And most people do not do that. And it's in this quiet space where, if you take the time, in my opinion, that's why I like rituals. They're ritual. If you take that time in that quiet space, you will come up with such amazing ideas, get reconnected into things that you've lost sight of, and start to realize that you're going to become sharper, and you're going to realize some of the bullshit, going back to what we talked in the beginning, stuff that you've been putting up with, and some of the people that you got to, move on and liberate.
Refresh.
Into another seat or out of the business, and get your company back. Because what happens if people don't do that, they lose control of their company. And when you lose control of the company, it's because you're not connected to the DNA of the soul of the company, and you're too busy doing, in the business type stuff. So that's what I would recommend. Yeah.
That's beautiful, Jon. And I think, I'd love, the conversation is so interesting, but I'm going to be conscious of your time and everybody listening in as well. I want to remind people to definitely get the book. As Jon said, it's in a story format. You'll be able to really identify with a lot of the stories in here, the challenges. And then in addition to that, Jon, if somebody listening in, they want to really engage with you, how do they reach out to you?
Oh, sure. Thank you for asking. Well, my website, Jon Dwoskin, Jon, D as in David, Woskin. is a great place to get a hold of me. It has all my ebooks, my book, my blogs, my video tips that I do weekly, just a ton of content. My phone number's on there as well as my email, and anybody can call me. I call back everybody that calls me every single day. My cell is 248-535-7796. I may not call a vendor that's cold calling me or something like the same day. Just because sometimes I like to test them and see how persistent they are. But anybody who's calling from a client perspective, or any client of mine knows that they're always going to hear back from me. Part of the relationship building. I have I have a team of people that do things for me, so I can always be with clients and on the phone with clients and face to face with clients.
Fantastic, Jon. Thank you for that. And before we close out, I'd love for you to pick one thing, if you were to pick one piece of advice to share with listeners. And let's even think, in my mind, everybody's running their own business, whether it's a sales professional or a CEO or CXO. What would be the one thing you choose that you think will make a shift in their business?
Do what fulfills you, and do what fulfills you. I meet a lot of people that, not really my clients so much, but I meet a lot of people that, I'm going to answer this two ways. I meet a lot of people that aren't happy in what they're doing. And, you got to set a plan to do what ultimately fulfills you, because life's too short and you got to do what you love to do. So, there's never a good time. So, go be fulfilled. If it's talking to, what's one thing, if I'm telling the owner of a company, I'm telling them, which is, I think this is very hard to do. I'm telling them to take a day off.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Schedule a day off. And because they won't, it is so difficult. I can't tell you how many CEOs I talk to and I say, listen, you need to be sharp, and you need to be 100%. You're not going to always be 100%, but you're at 70% right now because you're burnt out and you're working too hard and you're wearing so many hats. I want you to take a day off, or take 2 days off, or take a half day off. And they'll say, I'll do that. I go on a family vacation, or I do that. That doesn't count. I mean, I have kids.
Do it for you.
Right. I have an 11 and 14-year-old. That's not a complete vacation. A vacation was when my kids went to camp this summer. My wife and I went to New England for 2 weeks.
Exactly. Because otherwise you're actually entertaining them.
Correct. Right. Or there's different agendas, and not that it's not fun, but you need to do things that are for you. Take a day off when your kids are at school, and you can do something where you're doing nothing, but you've got to spend time for yourself to refuel. And most people do not refuel. I'm guilty of it too. I got to tell myself the same advice. But
I love that honesty. Yeah, it's amazing. Yeah, and a lot of people don't do it.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm going on a hiking trip in November with my father-in-law, and I was telling my wife this morning that I'm stressed out for 3 days. I forgot I'm going hiking in New Mexico. And
that's awesome. Yeah.
But I remember thinking when I did it, I've got to push myself to do it. So
exactly. And on that note, we'll again end this amazing conversation. Again, get the book, get to know Jon. There's a lot of content on his website. Reach out to him as well. Jon, it's been a pleasure having you here. Thank you so much for being on the Top 1% Sellers podcast.
Thank you so much for having me on the show. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. And I'd love to encourage people also to visit the podcast on the Top 1% Sellers Academy website, as well as also the C-Suite Radio Network. Would love for you to check out amazing content from people like Jon and others. Thank you very much for listening. Bye-bye.
Hey, and thanks to you too for doing what you do. You do a lot of great things.
Thank you very much, Jon. Thank you.
Thank you for tuning in to the Top 1% Sellers podcast. Give us your suggestions and guest recommendations by emailing us at ash@connectwithash.com. Thank you also for sharing this podcast with your colleagues and social media contacts. To connect with us on LinkedIn, please send a connect request to ash@connectwithash.com. See you at our next episode. Thanks for tuning in.